High Admiral Xenovox of the Artaxian Confederation stood before the Galactic Security Council, her crystalline form catching the light of 3 suns streaming through the chamber's vast windows. The council chamber, carved from a single asteroid in the neutral Centauri sector, housed representatives from the galaxy's 30 most powerful civilizations. All except one had earned their place through centuries of technological advancement and military might. The human question requires immediate attention. Vox's harmonic voice resonated through the chamber. Their application for expanded trading rights cannot be considered without addressing their military capabilities, or rather, their concerning lack thereof. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. Supreme Coordinator Kellax, their arthropodal form towering over the central podium, clicked their mandibles thoughtfully. The data is quite clear. In the standard galactic year since humanity's admission, they have commissioned 0 warships, developed no weapons of mass destruction, and their military spending represents less than 1% of their GDP. Precisely my point, Vox continued, gesturing to the holographic display materializing above the chamber floor. Look at their colony vessels, unarmed. Their trade ships, minimal point defense systems. Even their diplomatic vessels lack the standard quantum shielding required for deep space travel. They rely on primitive electromagnetic barriers that wouldn't withstand a single shot from a Drachnid fighter. The display shifted to show Earth's orbital infrastructure. Research stations, civilian habitats, and manufacturing facilities, all seemingly focused on scientific advancement and commercial enterprises. General Kraz of the Galactic Empire rose from his seat, his scaled hide reflecting deep purple in the chamber's light. Perhaps we were too hasty in admitting them to the council. A species that fears conflict has no place among those who maintain galactic order. In the furthest corner of the chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth sat silently, her face a mask of diplomatic neutrality as she took notes on her datapad. If any of the council members had bothered to look closely, they might have noticed the slight curl at the corner of her mouth. With all due respect, Chen finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly despite its softness. Humanity's focus on peaceful development shouldn't be mistaken for weakness. We simply believe there are better ways to resolve conflicts. Laughter erupted from several delegates. Kraz's scales flickered in amusement. Better ways. The Galactic Empire has maintained peace in its sector for 10,000 years through military superiority. What alternative could possibly be more effective? Chen smiled politely. Innovation takes many forms, General. Not all strength is measured in firepower. Enough, Kellax interrupted. The motion before us is simple. Do we grant humans expanded trading rights despite their military inadequacies? The Council will vote. As the delegates cast their votes, none noticed the quantum-encrypted transmission leaving Chen's datapad, traveling through subspace to a location far beyond the Council's monitoring systems. The message contained 3 words. They still believe. Deep within an artificial asteroid field at the edge of human space, Fleet Admiral James Chen, Sarah's brother, received the transmission in a facility that officially didn't exist. The massive chamber around him hummed with energy as rows of technicians monitored systems that would make the Council's finest scientists weep with envy. Status report, he commanded. Operation Shadow Web is at 98% readiness, sir, his XO reported. The quantum phase generators are fully operational. All stealth systems are functioning within parameters. The fleet is ready. James studied the holographic display, showing hundreds of ships scattered throughout the asteroid field, vessels unlike anything the Council had ever seen. While the galaxy's powers had focused on brute force and energy weapons, humanity had taken a different path. Their ships were practically invisible to conventional sensors, powered by technology that manipulated the quantum fabric of space itself. They think we fear war, James mused, watching the latest Council feed. They mistake our restraint for weakness, our diplomacy for cowardice. He turned to his XO. How long until the Galactic Empire launches their surprise invasion of the Artaxian sector? Intelligence suggests 3 days, sir. They're massing their fleet under the cover of routine exercises. James nodded. The Drachnids had always been predictable in their arrogance. They believed their movements were secret, that their planned conquest of the Artaxian Confederation would be swift and unstoppable. They had no idea they were about to provide humanity with the perfect opportunity to demonstrate just how wrong the Council's assumptions had been. Begin final preparations, he ordered. When the Drachnids make their move, we'll show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. And perhaps then they'll understand. We don't fear war. We simply prefer to wage it on our own terms. The quantum phase generators pulsed silently, making the fleet of ghost ships shimmer like stars in the void. In 3 days, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their restraint, but in their ability to deceive. The Council had created their own worst nightmare, an enemy they hadn't even known existed. The Drachnid invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect attack formation, 5,000 warships strong, their plasma cannons charging, missile bays opening. General Kraz stood on his flagship's bridge, admiring the elegant brutality of his forces as they approached the Artaxian defense line. "Send the ultimatum," he ordered, mandibles clicking in anticipation. "Demand their immediate surrender." But before his communications officer could comply, the sensor arrays erupted with warnings. Space itself seemed to ripple, like heat waves over desert sand. Where there had been empty void between his fleet and their target, shapes began to materialize. Sleek, dark vessels unlike anything he'd ever seen. "Impossible," Kraz whispered. "There were no ships there." "Our scans." "Sir," his tactical officer interrupted, voice trembling. "We're detecting quantum anomalies throughout the sector. Energy signatures off the charts. They're everywhere." The human fleet revealed itself like a predator shedding its camouflage. 300 vessels, each one a masterpiece of engineering that defied conventional physics. Their hulls weren't made of traditional materials, but rather consisted of layered quantum fields that could phase between states of matter. Aboard the HSS Nightshade, Fleet Admiral James Chen watched the Drachnid fleet's reaction with cool satisfaction. Status of the quantum web. "Fully deployed, sir," his tactical officer reported. "The Drachnids are completely enclosed. Their hyperspace vectors are blocked." James nodded. For decades, humanity had presented a facade of technological simplicity to the galaxy, while secretly perfecting the art of quantum manipulation. Each human ship now carried technology that could locally alter the laws of physics themselves. "Open a channel to General Kraz's flagship," James ordered. "Let's see how the mighty Drachnid Empire responds to finding itself trapped." The holographic display showed Kraz's scaled face, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. "What trickery is this? You dare interfere with a legitimate military operation." "Legitimate." James allowed himself a small smile. "Like your routine exercises. The Council may have believed your deceptions, General, but we've been watching, waiting. And now you're about to learn why humanity doesn't need to parade our military might across the galaxy." Kraz's response was predictably aggressive. "Open fire. Destroy these upstart primates." The Drachnid fleet launched its attack, thousands of plasma torpedoes and energy beams slicing through space toward the human vessels. But as the barrage reached them, something extraordinary happened. The human ship's quantum fields pulsed, and the incoming fire simply passed through them, as if they weren't there at all. "Phase shift successful," the Nightshade's tactical officer reported calmly. "0 damage sustained. All ships reporting same." James leaned forward in his command chair. "Now, demonstrate why we don't need heavy weapons to win a war. Execute Operation Ghostwalker." The human fleet moved with impossible precision, their quantum drives allowing them to partially exist in multiple spaces simultaneously. They flowed through the Drachnid formation like water through rocks, their presence disrupting the very fabric of space-time around the enemy vessels. Drachnid ships began experiencing catastrophic systems failures as their quantum-sensitive technology encountered waves of localized reality distortion. Weapons systems crashed, shields collapsed, and navigation computers failed to compute their position in space that suddenly didn't behave according to normal physics. "What are you doing to my ships?" Kraz demanded, his composure cracking as reports of failures flooded in. "Teaching a lesson," James replied. "You thought we were weak because we didn't build weapons of mass destruction. But why destroy when you can simply disable? Your entire fleet is now effectively neutralized without a single shot fired." The quantum web tightened, creating a bubble of altered spacetime that rendered the Drachnid fleet's technology useless. 5,000 of the galaxy's most powerful warships, reduced to floating hulks by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. "Your choices are simple," James continued. "You can surrender now, withdraw your forces, and explain to the Council how humanity just defeated the mighty Drachnid Empire without destroying a single ship. Or, he let the alternative hang in the air, unspoken. Kraz's scales had lost their luster, his proud bearing diminished. "You planned this. All of it. The peaceful facade, the minimal defenses. We learned long ago that the greatest victory is the one achieved without destruction. Your empire has maintained peace through fear. We prefer to maintain it through capability and restraint." As the Drachnid fleet powered down its weapons, signals began flooding in from across the galaxy. The Council was convening an emergency session. Humanity's mastery of quantum technology, hidden for so long, would reshape the balance of power in ways no one had anticipated. James sent a message to his sister. "The game is changing. Time for Phase 3. The Nightshade's quantum field rippled, its dark hull seeming to absorb the light of distant stars. In the space between spaces, humanity's true power had finally been revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The emergency council session erupted into chaos before it even properly began. The massive chamber, usually a model of decorum, now buzzed with accusations and demands as delegates from 30 civilizations tried to process the implications of what had just occurred. Supreme Coordinator Kalak struggled to maintain order. "The human delegation will explain these developments." Their compound eyes fixed on Ambassador Chen, who stood calmly at the center of the storm. "Of course," Sarah Chen replied, activating a holographic display that filled the chamber. "What you're seeing is the culmination of 2 centuries of human quantum physics research. We call it the Quantum Manipulation Network, or QMN. The display showed the battle, or rather, the complete negation of battle, that had occurred hours earlier. Drachnid ships, once the terror of the galaxy, floating helplessly in space as human vessels phased through their formation like ghosts through walls." High Admiral Vox of the Artaxian Confederation leaned forward, her crystalline form vibrating with intense frequencies. "You deceived us all. Every statistical analysis, every technological assessment. We showed you exactly what we wanted you to see," Sarah interrupted smoothly. "A species so focused on peaceful development that we couldn't possibly pose a military threat. Tell me, Admiral, did it ever occur to you to question why a race that achieved faster than light travel in less than 3 centuries might be capable of more than we displayed?" The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. If humans had concealed this level of technology, what else were they hiding? "The Council demands full disclosure of human military capabilities," Kalak declared, their mandibles clicking rapidly. "This level of deception is precisely what you forced upon us," Sarah countered. A new hologram appeared, showing historical footage of Council races testing weapons on primitive worlds. "From the moment we achieved spaceflight," we observed, "we saw how the Council treated lesser races, how military might determine diplomatic status. So we adapted. We evolved, but not in ways you could measure." The display shifted again, showing the quantum fields that powered human ships. "While you perfected ways to destroy, we perfected ways to deny. While you built bigger weapons, we learned to manipulate reality itself. And now, she gestured, and the hologram expanded to show hundreds of human quantum ships decloaking throughout Council space. Vessels that had been there all along, watching, waiting. Panic erupted among the delegates. Security forces raised weapons, only to find them non-functional within zones of altered quantum space. "This is an act of war," General Kraz bellowed, having been summoned to explain his fleet's humiliation. Sarah smiled. "No, General. This is an act of peace, enforced through capability rather than destruction. As we speak, human quantum fields are establishing a new reality in Council space, one where weapons of mass destruction simply cease to function." "You can't do this," Vox protested. "The economic implications alone." "Your commercial technology will work perfectly fine," Sarah assured them. "We're not here to disrupt trade or civilian life. We're simply adjusting the rules of engagement." She walked to the center of the chamber, her voice carrying to every corner. "For too long, the galaxy has operated on the principle that destructive capability equals diplomatic power. Today, that changes. Humanity isn't interested in conquest or dominion. We're interested in stability." The holograms showed the quantum field spreading, creating a web of altered space throughout the galaxy's major military installations. "You'll find that your planet-killer weapons, your civilization-ending devices, your tools of mass destruction, they no longer function within Council space. Conventional weapons remain operational. We're not naive enough to think conflict can be eliminated entirely. But the age of species-ending warfare is over." Kelex's mandibles worked silently for a moment. "And if we refuse to accept these terms?" "This isn't a negotiation," Sarah replied calmly. "It's a notification. The quantum fields are self-sustaining and self-replicating. They're as much a part of space-time now as gravity. You can't fight them any more than you can fight the laws of physics themselves." She turned to address the entire Council. "Humanity extends its hand in true partnership. We offer our quantum technology for peaceful applications, energy production, medical advancement, space exploration. But the choice of how to proceed is yours. Will you join us in building a galaxy where strength is measured by more than destructive capability?" The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. In a single day, humanity had not only revealed itself as the most technologically advanced species in known space, but had fundamentally altered the rules that had governed galactic civilization for millennia. And in the silence, Sarah Chen's quantum-encrypted communicator received a simple message from her brother. "Phase 4 is ready. Time to show them what peace really looks like." 6 months after humanity's revelation, the Great Hall of Synthesis on Mars hosted representatives from every council race. The massive dome, constructed from quantum crystalline materials that shifted between transparency and opacity based on thought patterns, symbolized Earth's new approach to galactic diplomacy. Fleet Admiral James Chen stood beside his sister, watching alien diplomats interact with human quantum technology for the first time. The fear and hostility that had dominated the emergency council session had gradually given way to curiosity and cautious optimism. "Show them." Sarah nodded to the technical team. The center of the hall erupted in a controlled quantum field demonstration. A miniature solar system materialized, its planets orbiting in perfect harmony. But unlike traditional holograms, this display existed in a pocket of altered spacetime, allowing delegates to interact with actual matter and energy in ways that defied conventional physics. "What you're witnessing," James addressed the gathered delegates, "is the tip of the quantum iceberg. While we use this technology for defense, its true potential lies in creation, not destruction." Supreme Coordinator Kellex, who had chosen to attend personally, stepped forward. Their crystalline exoskeleton reflected the quantum light in mesmerizing patterns. "You speak of creation, yet you held our civilizations hostage with this same power." "Did we?" Sarah countered. She gestured, and the display shifted to show real-time footage from across council space. "Look carefully. In the 6 months since we activated the quantum fields, how many worlds have faced planetary bombardment? How many species have been threatened with extinction? How many civilian populations have lived in fear of orbital strikes? The statistics floated in quantum space. Civilian casualties from major conflicts had dropped by 99.8%. Planetary-scale weapons had been rendered inert. The galaxy's arms race had effectively ended. But more importantly, James continued, look at what has risen in its place. The display shifted again, showing new developments across Council space. Worlds that had once spent vast resources on weapons development were now redirecting their efforts. The Galactic Empire, once feared for its military might, had become a pioneer in quantum-enhanced agriculture, using controlled reality manipulation to terraform dead worlds into gardens. General Kraz himself stood among the delegates, his scales now bearing the distinctive markings of a science minister. We were wrong, he admitted, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of warfare. We measured strength by our ability to destroy, never considering that true power might lie in the ability to create. High Admiral Vox's crystalline form resonated with harmonic frequencies as she studied the quantum display. The technology transfer programs have advanced our understanding of the universe by centuries. My people have already adapted quantum fields for medical applications we never thought possible. Because that was always humanity's true strength, Sarah explained. Not our ability to wage war, but our ability to imagine alternatives, to see possibilities where others saw only threats. The quantum display expanded, showing the future humanity envisioned. A galaxy where technology served life rather than death, where species competed through innovation rather than destruction, where the strong protected the weak instead of exploiting them. We hid our capabilities not out of fear, James continued, but because we needed the galaxy to be ready for what we offered. If we had revealed quantum technology immediately, it would have become just another weapon in an endless arsenal. Kellex moved through the display, their compound eyes processing the quantum interactions. And now, what assurance do we have that humanity won't use this power to establish dominion over all? Sarah smiled. Computer, initiate protocol synthesis. The quantum fields throughout the hall pulsed, and suddenly, every delegate could feel the underlying structure of the technology. Complex mathematical formulae and engineering principles flowed directly into their consciousness through controlled quantum interfaces. We're giving you everything, Sarah announced. Complete access to quantum manipulation technology. All our research, all our developments, all our breakthroughs. Because true peace isn't achieved through forced disarmament or technological superiority. It's achieved through shared understanding and mutual growth. The hall erupted in astonished murmurs as delegates began processing the wealth of knowledge being shared. Centuries of human research and development, freely given to transform the galaxy. James watched the reactions with satisfaction. Phase 4 complete, he murmured to his sister, ready for the final revelation. Sarah nodded, her eyes on the gathered delegates as they began to understand the true scope of humanity's gift. Show them what humanity has been working on while they were learning to use quantum fields for peace. In the deepest reaches of Earth's quantum research facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, a discovery waited that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of existence itself. As the Council delegates were transported to this classified location, even their most advanced sensors couldn't comprehend the energies they detected. Ambassador Sarah Chen led the procession through corridors of shifting quantum space, where reality itself seemed to breathe. Behind her, James watched the delegates' reactions with quiet satisfaction. Everything had led to this moment. What you're about to see, Sarah began, stopping before a massive circular chamber, is why we spent centuries preparing the galaxy for peace. Why we needed to ensure that no species would use this discovery as a weapon. The chamber doors parted, revealing a sight that defied conventional physics. At its center floated a perfect sphere of pure quantum energy, but unlike anything the delegates had seen before. Within it, entire universes seemed to dance. We call it the bridge, James explained. It's not just a quantum manipulation device. It's a gateway to other dimensions, other realities, other possibilities of existence itself. Kelex's compound eyes reflected the shifting energies. You've achieved trans-dimensional travel. More than that, Sarah corrected. We've discovered that reality itself is far more malleable than anyone imagined. The quantum fields we use to disable weapons, they were just our first steps in understanding how to manipulate the fabric of existence. The sphere pulsed, and suddenly the chamber filled with visions of other Earths, other galaxies, other versions of every species present. But more importantly, it showed civilizations far beyond their comprehension, beings that had evolved past the need for physical form. There are species out there, James continued, that make our combined technological achievements look like stone tools. And they're watching, waiting to see if we're ready to join them. General Kraz, now Science Minister, stepped forward. All this time, you weren't just protecting the galaxy from itself. You were preparing us for first contact with something far greater. The beings we've discovered exist in quantum harmony across multiple dimensions, Sarah explained. They've achieved what we might call technological singularity, but it's so far beyond that concept that words fail to describe it. They reached out to humanity a century ago, but we understood that we couldn't be the only species to make this leap. The bridge pulsed again, and every delegate felt a connection to something vast and incomprehensible, a network of consciousness that spanned not just space, but reality itself. This is why we needed peace, James said softly. Why we needed every species to understand that true power lies not in destruction, but in creation. The beings we've contacted don't recognize individual species or civilizations. They interact only with unified consciousness, with beings who have moved past conflict and learned to exist in harmony. High Admiral Vox's crystalline form resonated with the quantum energies. You're offering us a place among them. We're offering us all a place among them, Sarah corrected. Humanity's role was never to rule or dominate. We were simply the first to understand that the galaxy's future depended on unity, not division. The bridge expanded, its energies filling the chamber with possibilities. Countless futures unfolded before them. Futures where the combined knowledge and creativity of every species led to achievements beyond imagination. The choice is yours, James announced to the assembled delegates. We can remain as we are, separate species bound by treaties and technology. Or we can take the next step together, join something greater than ourselves, and discover what it truly means to exist in a universe where the impossible is merely the beginning. Kellex stepped forward, their voice carrying the weight of history. When we first encountered humanity, we thought you feared war. Then we thought you were deceiving us. Now we understand. You were teaching us, preparing us. And now? Sarah asked, her hand hovering over the bridge's control interface. One by one, the delegates stepped forward. Species that had once been bitter enemies, civilizations that had warred for millennia, all united by the understanding that they stood on the brink of something extraordinary. Now, Kraz answered, his scaled form reflecting the quantum light, we're ready to learn what peace truly means. Sarah smiled and activated the bridge. The quantum sphere expanded, encompassing them all in its energy. As the barriers between dimensions began to fade, humanity's greatest achievement became clear. They had not just prevented war or advanced technology. They had guided an entire galaxy toward a destiny greater than anyone had imagined possible. The universe, in all its infinite possibilities, waited.